One.
Good Thursday morning from the office. I'm your host, BKP. We are North Georgia's only live online morning show. Don't forget, at 8:30 this morning, we'll have Carla in here for Carla's Corner. We're going to open up directly with an interview, but first let me say, as you well know, we have a runoff in the Republican primary for governor of the state of Georgia between Secretary of State Brian Kemp and Lieutenant Governor Cagle. Now, we are up to the point where on a daily basis I have emails from these campaigns and they just keep flooding the inbox. And recently, the Cagle Campaign has launched several attack ads and lashing right out at Brian Kemp here in this runoff. And we're now joined by Secretary Brian Kemp, maybe to answer some of these emails I have in the inbox. Secretary Kemp, are you with us?
Hey, good morning. Great to be back on with you guys.
Well, thank you for joining us. And as you well know, as you probably heard me there, we are in the campaign where daily basis I'm getting press releases from the Cagle Campaign, something pertaining to you. Recently, let's start with this one. If we got a minute, what I'd like to do is go through and just give you an opportunity to give your side of the accusations they make. The most recent one, Secretary Kemp, is that you had teamed up with liberal Democrats to kill gun rights bills. As a senator, Kemp voted to allow government ban on firearms during times of emergency, when you were a state senator, even stating that you teamed up with Stacey Abrams to kill this bill. And this was yesterday's mail. So what say you as far as this most recent attack?
Well, first of all, let me just say how ridiculous all of that is. It shows how desperate Cagle is. You know, I told a radio or TV interview the other day, he's been in office as long as I've been married, 24 years, and he's feeling that power slipping away because of our surge that we had on primary night, the strong showing that we've had in the 2 weeks since I got in the runoff. The polls are neck and neck now, and the guy that was the front runner that pledged to run a clean campaign and talk about the issues, and somebody that's been there that long can't even talk about his own record. He's tried, basically lying about mine. That was a procedural vote. Anybody that has to send out a long dysentery on how that whole process works knows that's not true. The governor's floor leader voted for that same procedural motion. You know, we had a Republican governor at the time. So, Cagle's basically lying about my record to win the governor's office. And I've elected to stay positive. No, we're not going to let him put lies like that out and not respond. So we've done that to our supporters, and he's getting hammered on Facebook and social media right now for running that kind of campaign. But what we're doing is we're staying positive. We're telling Georgians, what my message is, putting them first ahead of the special interest, and the special interest are feeling their candidates slip away. And I'm going to keep fighting hard every day for hardworking Georgians. We've released Congressman Jody Hice's endorsement this week. Representative David Clark, who is a veteran leading our Veterans Coalition. Conservative County Commissioner Nancy Jester got on board this week. So we're continuing to ask for people's vote and their support, and we're not going to get in the gutter. I mean, people are sick of that kind of politics. They did the same thing to Donald Trump, trying to tear him down every day, and he fought back, and I'm going to do the same thing.
Well, it's a pretty nasty ad, and I use the word nasty because I just thought, wow, that was pretty rough. It showed natural disasters and possibly Georgians in a emergency situation, at the same time saying you voted not to allow this emergency situation.
Well, that's just not true. It was a procedural vote to.
Excuse me. Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you said procedural. Let me get this straight. Was it a vote to table the legislation? Is it?
Yes, which is common. If the bill needs to go back for somebody fixing it, if the governor had a problem with whatever. I mean, look, that's 15 years ago. Right. I mean, the guy's reaching in the closet out of desperation, and everybody, and the reason he's doing it is because our last poll shows that we're kicking, as you know what, when it comes to Second Amendment voters, because I've got a strong record on the Second Amendment. I've got an A rating from the NRA. I'm endorsed by Georgia Carry. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm not only going to be a supporter of the Second Amendment, but I'm going to be an advocate for that and move forward to enhance our ability to protect ourselves.
So you're saying at the same time you voted to table that legislation, so did the governor's floor leader? Would that be Governor Sonny Perdue at that time?
That's correct.
And the floor leader voted also. Okay, well, that is one of the accusations, and it's a direct shot at guns. Georgia, let's see, I get some of the, and I don't want to disrespect them, I get some of the gun advocacy groups confused. Georgia, not Georgia Carry, but Georgia Gun Owner Survey. Did you do Did you do the Georgia Gun Owner Survey?
Yeah, we absolutely did. I support constitutional carry. Casey Cagle's been a flip-flopper on that issue. He was, against it. Now he's for it. He's finally filled out his survey.
Yeah, I got that yesterday. But, I got that yesterday. I'm sorry, Secretary. I apologize. But I got that yesterday. Somebody sent that to me, Georgia Gun Owner Survey. But they failed to put in there that was after it was hand-delivered to him, basically in an ambush video, which I personally don't condone ambush videos. But that's when it was done. So when did you do your Georgia Gun Owner Survey?
I would have to find out. It's been, in the last week or so. I mean, we did not do it before the primary because, quite honestly, I got one of those ambush videos that way, and I don't get pressured into making decisions. So we fought through the primary process and then filled the survey out. And I believe, that with them staying on Cagle's what forced him to do it. But look, I'm not a big survey guy. People that know me, I mean, look at my voting record. And I had many legislators that came to my defense on this whole garbage that Cagle's doing on this procedural vote and backed me up on that. So it's not even worth talking about that. I mean, it's sleazy politics, and we're going to stay focused. And he knows that we're beating him with Second Amendment folks. He knows I've got a stronger record than he does. And if he wants to attack me on that, I'm glad to talk about that all day long. Okay,
let's talk about the is it Heart Ag? Is that the company?
That's correct.
Let's talk about that video and where the farmer's asking you to get off the front porch, Brian Kemp. Let's talk about that as far as the statement that you personally guaranteed those loans, but then your statement says you were just an investor. They have stretched out here, and even to the point to saying in Kentucky you lost your license, which we did do the research there, and I understand what your response to that was. But I want to give you the floor to respond to that ad concerning the loans there and defaulting or not defaulting. Your campaign says that there's things being worked out with the company now, but let me give you the floor to explain that one.
Well, first of all, that is old news. Second, it is fake news. And, Casey Cagle, again, is desperate. He's criticizing me for being a private sector business person for 30 years. I started my first company with a pickup truck and a shovel. I have built companies, I have grown jobs, I have run companies, and I've also invested in companies. And this is one I invested in. I have an 8% stake along with 29 or 30 other investors. I've never run the company. What he's saying in that ad is all false, 100%. There was never a grain license in my name. I do not owe farmers any money. That is the company. I haven't guaranteed that debt. I did guarantee some of the debt on subordinated loans, and the company failed to repay those loans. So, there was an article right after I qualified over a year ago about the two lawsuits. We've settled one of those. We're in mediation with the others. And, Casey Cagle's attacking me for being in the private sector. I mean, look, I struggled in the recession like everyone else did. And I've been involved in bad business deals and good ones. But, I came out on the other side of that. I fought hard to, for my family. I'm paying for my house a second time. I've had to borrow money to keep my businesses afloat. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And when Casey Cagle's going to lie about somebody's record and can't even talk about his own, I think that says a lot for his fledgling campaign that's going down the tubes, and that quarter century of political power is fixing to be going away. And you're going to have a candidate for governor as a Republican nominee that's going to put Georgians first ahead of all the special interests that's raised, $7-8 million for his campaign.
Okay, so where the Heart ag is concerned. You agree there were some things. An 8% investor, I heard you say. You agree you agree there's some things financially that has happened in the company, and where you're concerned or you're obligated, you have not run for those obligations. Is that what I heard correctly?
Right. I mean, we're in a legal process. The company got sued. I got sued along with the company. It's the company's debt. I was just guaranteeing that. But that's something, look, I've been a risk taker. I believed in the company. I still believe in it. The company's still operating. It's still trying to climb out of the hole. I feel, I'm very hopeful that they're going to pay their debts that they owe, including me. I mean, I have a lot of money that I've lost on this deal or have the potential of losing. It's cost me a lot of money. But, I took that risk, and it turned out to be a bad decision on my part. But, we're fighting through that and working through the process, and that's nothing that normal business people don't, go through. This is one investment of, literally dozens of companies I've been involved in over the years. And for Casey Cagle to lie about what's really happening, about whose grain license it is, and, saying I owe farmers when that is absolutely false, that shows you what kind of politician he is. And I don't think that's the kind of leader that people want in the state of Georgia. They want somebody that's going to be trustworthy and transparent. And I haven't had everything easy, but, I went out on my own literally with a pickup truck and a shovel, and come a long way. And I'm going to continue to do that as a private sector person. And that's really what we need in government. We need somebody that understands that understands, and especially in rural parts of our state, the people are still struggling. There's not good opportunity there, which is one reason I invested in Hard Ag Strong. It went into a rural community and created a lot of investment in that community. And for Casey Cagle to lie about that is disgusting.
Okay, let's switch gears. I got two more things. I know you got a busy day on the campaign trail. Casey Cagle just returned from a quick trip out to Las Vegas. And his campaign claims that he did not go out there to meet with Sheldon Adelson, the casino billionaire, and that the intent was to go out and meet with and do a fundraiser with data center executives. Your campaign spokesperson said. Ryan Mahoney said, for those who believe Cagle is not meeting with casino representatives in Sin City, I got some oceanfront property in Nevada to sell you. That's what your campaign's response was to his trip. Does your campaign know of any meetings out there with casino executives? Do you know of anything concerning him maybe being open to casinos in Georgia? What do you know about this trip? Your campaign, and what do you think about him making a trip out to Vegas?
Well, I could care less what Casey Cagle's doing. I know I'm right here in the state of Georgia raising money from hardworking Georgians to help fund my campaign, despite my opponent raising $7-8 million and doubling what I've raised and doing it by collecting special interest money that are writing big checks. We still have more donors than he does. We've had to work harder to raise that money, but it's not coming from the special interest. It's coming from hardworking Georgians and from people that want a governor that's going to put them first over those special interests. So, I know he's gone to Vegas to do a fundraiser. I know he's going to do a lobbyist fundraiser in Washington, D.C. And look, that's what we're dealing with. He's got to have that money to continue to hit me, because that's the only way he thinks he can win, because he's lost the momentum in this race. The guy that was supposed to win on primary night outright has not. Now we've tied him in the polls. He feels that grip of power slipping away, and this is Georgians' opportunity to vote for and to send somebody to the Republican nomination that's going to put them first over the special interest, and have somebody that's going to fight for them every single day. And that's what I will do as governor.
As governor, you remain committed to not supporting casino gambling in Georgia? That
is correct.
Okay.
And I've been clear about that from day one, and I don't, have to go to Vegas to explain that either.
Okay. I have one more thing, because I know I appreciate you always give us about 20 minutes, and I can't thank you enough, Secretary.
Oh, my pleasure.
But let me say this. The Supreme Court came out with a ruling concerning the Jack Phillips versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission, and I think not what's lost, but sometimes what's lost is this case was specifically against the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, and your statement on that when the Supreme Court made that decision for Jack Phillips. I applaud today's decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. As governor, I'll stand up to the radical left and politically correct, said Kemp. We will never apologize for protecting religious liberty and living out our faith. So let me ask you, as governor, what really does that statement encompass? Because does Georgia have something in a similar nature to the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, to where these two men made their complaint? And with no state legislation, how are we never going to apologize? How are you going to protect Georgians' religious liberty? So as governor, what are you going to do to protect our religious liberty?
Well, first of all, let me just assure your listeners and people across the state that this election is about our values and about our soul when we think about Brian Kemp running against Stacey Abrams. And we need somebody that's going to fight for our values, for what we believe in, and for our way of life. That's why I got involved in politics the very first time, running against the Democratic incumbent that nobody thought I could beat, that supported Ralph Nader for president. And we're facing that same type election right now. It's about the soul of our state, and we need somebody that's going to fight for the values that we hold dear. Religious freedom is one of those. And while I was happy with Jack Phillips getting the ruling he did, it didn't really answer the question of protection under the First Amendment. So I think as Georgia, we've got to sign religious liberty legislation that references the federal statute. Every state around us has the same thing, either in their laws or that's been adjudicated to protect men and women of faith. Now, I'll also be a governor that's not going to allow discrimination in our state, but people must be able to practice their religious values and their beliefs in this state and in this country. That's what we were founded on, and that is what I will fight for as governor.
Thank you, Secretary Kemp. Where is the campaign taking you this week, next week? What is going on in the campaign? Where are you guys at?
Well, we've been all over the place, as you can imagine. This week I've been mainly in Atlanta at our campaign headquarters, meeting with folks that are coming on board, moving our way. We're making there's no telling how many phone calls we're making.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm being so rude to you this morning, sir. But how much shift from the other three? I just thought about that, and they make a little joke in here all the time, and they say squirrel, and I change the subject. But how much shift from Hunter Hill, Clay Tippins, Michael Williams, any of the other candidates has come your way that you guys have felt? And have you sit down and talk to any of those candidates about an endorsement, support, or anything like that? And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to move that.
No, that's a great question, and I think that's another reason that my opponent's hitting me, because he knows on the ground that all those folks are moving our way. Their grassroots supporters are moving our way. Elected officials that were supporting them are moving our way. You've seen some of those announcements, and we'll have more to come. And I certainly feel that momentum. That's one reason I've been in the office so much. I've been on the phone calling those people, raising money, calling grassroots supporters, literally, till 8, 9 o'clock at night, working the phones, and certainly would love to have the endorsement of my former opponents, and I've been working on that as well. Those guys really battled hard. They felt the same, animosity that I've had with negative attacks, and, I hope that the voters will see through that as people come our way. And, all along, if people weren't supporting me in the primary, I asked for their vote, in the second round to be their second choice. And that is going to carry us to victory on July 24th. And we just feel very blessed with where the campaign is right now. We're going to continue to be happy warriors and, tell people when somebody's lying about us, but also talk about our positive record, our plans to track and deport criminal illegals, to stop and dismantle gangs, to keep our families safe, make Georgia #1 for small business, strengthen rural Georgia, and most importantly, put Georgians first ahead of the special interest. I mean, that is what this choice July 24th is about. You've got the guy that has been fighting to put Georgians first for the last 14, 15 months, and you got the guy that's going to, D.C. and Las Vegas to raise special interest money. And to me, that choice is clear as to who we want our nominee to be.
Your internal polling that shows you neck and neck, it is showing a shift from those other candidates' voters over your way?
Oh, absolutely. It showed really three things that stood out to me is Tippins and Hill people are moving our way in droves. And then thirdly, the Second Amendment supporters, we really did a lot better with them than my opponent did, which tells people why he's lying about my record and using desperate attacks on the Second Amendment to try to stop some of that bleeding that he's experiencing. But we're not going to let people do that. We're going to talk about my positive record of not only supporting but advocating for the Second Amendment, being somebody that hunts, fishes, carries, shoots, and believes in the right for people to protect themselves. And, that's what we're going to keep doing.
Thank you, Secretary Kemp. We appreciate you coming on and answering the questions, and we're going to be getting some more press releases and emails, and we'll invite you back to discuss those when they happen.
Anytime to come on and clear the record that's out there and talk about this positive message we have, and I'd like to ask for everyone's vote and support in this runoff, and they can join our team at kempforgovernor.com.
Thank you, Secretary. Okay.